tokens come with perpetual passive income, free edits, governance votes, so on, so on. Governance votes being the most important thing.
Oh, I use a lot of edits.
Yes, yeah, edits are good, yeah, and edits are tracked, so they're always, you can always look at them. They're on chain, so you can see how something was edited. But speaking of governance votes, this isn't a vote yet, but the January theme select, or what is it? It's a nomination or suggestion post.
Right.
So for the month of January, leave your suggestions by next Tuesday, the 17th, so that they can be included in the vote. So let's see here. Y'all Weird, the Great, says modularity in blockchain. That's a really good topic. I Am says May 22 is Bitcoin Pizza Day. Bitcoin and blockchain stated.
I'm already ahead. I'm already in May now.
You're throwing something up for May. So don't vote for this one yet. Come next week, right? Blockchain discussion about the new SEC chair and crypto czar, Paul Adkins, and whether or not you are willing to take his diet. I tell you what, I will go on the Adkins diet if the SEC will get the hell out of my life, right? I Am also.
Is that what it does? I think that just like a whole bunch of people would get on that diet if that's what it does. If that's what it does.
Bitcoin's birthday party, January 3rd. What do we celebrate? Was it really January 3rd?
Right? That was when the first block was mined.
Yeah,
out there to the world.
Atkins diet to become a qualified investor.
Yes, there you go. An accredited investor. We only eat fat meat and fat.
But you can only invest in Dentacoin.
Yeah, I forgot about Dentacoin. Theme: what blockchain coin or token would you give to your Valentine? Look
at that! I'm in February.
Man. Blockchain.
And now I'm into tomorrow. This is tomorrow.
Is that tactics or strategy? That'd be strategy, right? Blockchain solutions for a post-banking and government collapse. Which blockchain or cryptos will have the biggest impact in 2025? There you go. Yeah, which Dragon Chain. All right, let's see here. So those are the themes. Get some more themes in there because a lot of these are what would you say forward thinking. Yeah, so and let's see here. Again, Tuesday the 17th. You need the suggestions in because the vote will happen after that. So that's everything for updates. Now we go into theme of the week, which is Roger Ver's case update and its effect on blockchain. Who does anyone want to cover anything in front of the questions?
Yes. Okay. Sean I put in the very first one that should come up is the update or case update.
I think.
But Sean has got the free Roger now, which I had a link to it as well. The timeline I thought would be good for those that might be watching, listening, and haven't heard about the case or don't know much about the case. If you click on timeline there, Joe, at the top center,
yes, very.
It walks you through it, and if you don't mind, I'll just kind of go through this real quick. So in 2000, he ran as a libertarian candidate. He was like 20 years old, and gave several speeches and criticized the ATF for one about the Waco situation, and he was
he called them jackboot something thugs,
jackboot thugs, and evil, and because they were taking pictures, they were actually taking pictures of the ashes where these children and family, irregardless of the cult and what you thought or believed of the cult, or even if it was an accidental, catch of fire and burn down the compound, taking photos in front of it was just wrong.
It was disgusting. It was inhumane.
I mean,
so
baby.
Yeah. So then he sells fireworks on eBay. And Cabela's is selling fireworks, and
I forgot about the fireworks thing. Yeah.
And the ATF in one of the cases, court cases, wanted to definitely prosecute him based off of what he said. in one of the meetings, and so he was already a target at a very young age.
And by the way, something needs to be that I didn't understand at the time. It wasn't just even fireworks. These are apparently fireworks that are used by farmers to scare away crows.
That's
right?
correct.
It's not even like, oh, why do we need fireworks? Why, it's like this is a legitimate thing he was selling.
It's weird that it's even illegal to sell. Like, I mean, if you branded them.
Well, they got him for not having a license,
right?
Which is entirely funny because back in those days, in the early onslaught of eBay, nobody was really selling with a license.
And how do you know if it's one of those licenses that you get that if you don't have it when you start, it's like trying to launch a rocket by dumping or trying to dump water under your rocket landing pad, like where they just say we're not going to process any more of your stuff until you comply. We need $200,000, right? Or if it's like the kind where they tried to run you out of business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was a felony charge, and he served prison time. And while he was in prison, he certainly found out about money and the fungibility of money as ramen and cigarettes and whatever else was in prison for money. And
heroin.
Yeah. So then after that, he wanted nothing to do with the U.S. He wanted to escape the government oppression, like it says here in the timeline, and started filing for renouncing his citizenship and going through that process. He discovers Bitcoin in 2011. He's the first investor in companies that support blockchain and Bitcoin in the world. And he was already a wealthy person in his mid to late 20s at this point. He sold a Lamborghini, for example, to buy more Bitcoin, to give you to put it in perspective.
Yeah.
So, and he made it on his own. It's not that he came from any kind of wealthy family. He challenged it. He had issues with his citizenship process with a Guatemalan passport. He eventually gets into St. Kitts as citizenship. He contacts his lawyers and says, I want the I's dotted and the T's crossed because they're going to come after me. So I want to make sure that all my taxation and all my tax filing is correct. So, and that is well documented. It's in his case filing, by the way. And he gets his citizenship renounced. Remember, at the time when you're renouncing your citizenship, you have to total your assets and then pay capital gains on your assets. Right. So it doesn't matter so in some cases you're going to have to sell some of those assets to be able to pay that capital gains. Right. It's like what Kamala was.
It's unrealized capital gains.
Exactly what Kamala was talking about in her campaign, unrealized gains. So again, on the advice of high-priced lawyers, these were not cheap lawyers. He got the best counsel that was available, and Bitcoin at the time globally had a $7 million trading volume globally. All right. And obviously he had far more than that, but it was calculated what that tax should be. And it was paid. He was filed. That gets crazy. So now he's outside of the U.S. He's no longer a U.S. citizen. And the IRS comes back and says, no, you owe us more than what you filed. And you also need to refile these things. So every time he had to refile, or during that time where he was trying to do his tax filing, they considered that mail fraud. So that's where he's facing 109 years, basically a life sentence because of the filings. Each filing is a mail fraud, like 30 years each or something insane. So that's how it's racked up to 109 years that he's filed.
Dude, we live in the weirdest system on earth where like they know exactly how much they want you to pay. Mm-hmm. And if you get the filing wrong, they come at you for getting the filing wrong. And if you try to get them to tell you how much you should put down, they won't.
Right.
It's like, how do you find out then if you got it wrong? Well, we might jail you.
Right.
Think about Erwin Schiff. I mean, he went zero, and for years he got away with it, and he finally they took him to his word, and when they arrested him, he was dying of cancer, and they wouldn't even let him out of the cuffs. He was in the
Exactly.
cancer
Nope.
ward.
Yep.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Disgusting. It's
Now,
also quite.
yeah,
It's
Roger
also
Vere's,
quite disgusting.
yeah,
The fact that the IRS they have all this leadway to go after U.S. citizens or even expatriate U.S. citizens, no longer citizens all across the world.
Mhm.
It's absolutely sickening.
Well,
It
I
is.
was
It
gonna
is.
say
And
people
it's
will turn around and
despicable.
argue that
It's
that
lawfare.
if you're not a U.S. citizen, you don't have your full rights
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
as
lawfare.
well.
Yeah, it's lawfare. What it is, and
it's
yet,
worse than that.
but it.
Because when
the
you
other-
look at it on a small scale, usually you could be like, "Oh, my local, government is you're a lot more in control of your local government." But it's like when I have had this argument with a friend of mine a million times because I'll tell him something about my town, and he's like, "Oh, no, they can't do that," and I'm like, "No, they do that. You could go to jail for my lawn being too high." And my neighbor across the street, we don't get along. He's a city worker who's friends with a code guy who comes by my house. The neighbors, like the judge has dismissed it like once or twice, but the neighbor's grass clearly higher than mine. In photographs that go to the judge because they have to fight the ticket. That's a $300 ticket if your grass is too high. Which I mean that adds up. So
I thought Texas was like the land of the free or something. Isn't it supposed to be like all
yeah, we're talking city.
people
It's
who-
it's the red
Right, and
heifers.
We're talking city.
This is also like the sort of the little piddly stuff they get you when they put you on the pre-crime watch list.
Mhm.
Yep,
But
pre-crime.
my point is, I say you can go to jail for not mowing your lawn, and the city and everyone's like, no, you can't. But if you don't pay the fine, or you don't, all like you were talking about, all these, if you get caught in the bureaucracy, that you can go to jail for. So technically, you're going to jail for not mowing your lawn, and
You can go to jail
just,
for non-compliance at any time.
yeah, it's just basic. It shows how government is just evil.
Right.
Right.
It-
And
it's-
what-
it's
what-
selectively enforced.
Right.
The last item I'd like to explain about his case is during this process, during this time, the IRS raided his attorney's office with
Yeah.
guns,
Right. Yeah.
and they
Unconstitutional.
confiscated all of his files. So they had the complete case information at this point. And that obviously violated attorney-client privileges. But more importantly, they lied to the Spanish government after he was arrested, and he didn't know the arrest was coming. He was arrested in Spain, in Barcelona, during a crypto conference. He was only going to be in Spain for 3-4 days tops, and he was arrested. They lied to the Spanish government, stating that he was trying to be a tax dodger. We have it on good authority that he was trying to obfuscate from paying certain taxes or having
How
certain.
does Spain
When in
care?
fact, his client attorney privileges within those files states that he is instructing his attorneys to do everything possible because I know they're going to come after me because I'm going to be vocal against government tyranny around the world. So I want this down to the minute level accurate in whatever I have to pay when I renounce. And so they knew this, but they lied to the Spanish government.
Yeah.
Furthermore, it goes to the Supreme Court too because of the attorney-client privileges violation when they
ridiculous.
raided his tax attorney's office and confiscated the files. The last point I was going to make is so now the U.S. government is upset because he gets out on bail, but he is on the island of Mayorkas, which is a Spanish island there in the Mediterranean, and he cannot even touch a boat. He cannot put a finger on a boat. He has to stay on the island. He has to report to the authorities or the court there every 48 hours. He has no clue. They could come in at 2 a.m. and grab his ass and say, you're being extradited to the U.S. Or it could go months or years. He has
Right.
no clue. So at this point, his life is really not only in the balance of facing 109 years in lawfare, his life is on hold because he can't leave this island. He really can't transact, and he can't be vocal about his
Well, and
case
it's almost like they're
until
goading
just
him to try to run.
until yesterday. He finally spoke out on Tucker Carlson's show.
Aren't that Carlson?
We have yet to evolve away from this bullshit, because this is no, the way that they have him sequestered to Mayorkas is no different from the Roman Catholic Church having Galilei sequestered to his home. I mean, it's
Exactly.
perpetual house
Because
arrest
the boots can
under
come at
threat
any
of
time.
murder.
Yeah. So that's where we stand right now. That's the update. We don't know what's going to happen.
And on Truth Tuesday, Lisa said, well, maybe Trump will pardon him. And
That's the push.
And I thought, and I said, yeah, it would have
I
been a
hope,
lot
but-
better had this been pre-election, because then it could have been
I
a
think you
thing.
can get away with pardoning just about
You
anything.
mean what?
right,
If the
these days.
interview pre-election, or I mean, the
Yeah,
case was pre-election.
if the whole case and everything was pre-election,
The
it
case
would have
was
been-
pre-election, wasn't
no,
it?
I think it was.
Well,
oh
It's
no,
been
yeah,
going on for a while.
the arrest was, but I don't think all.
I
this-
would say if
The
he were,
investigation's been
probably his best bet is to go put out a rap album and murder someone. Then that he's probably more likely to get.
No, I don't know.
Right.
Or maybe like
I don't know.
find a way to become a president's son and then evade taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Just say he's Donald Trump's long lost nephew, great
DNA
nephew.
test
Well,
time.
There's a prominent attorney named Robert Barnes, and he's been following this case. I
Love
think
him.
he's actually involved in it. And he said that he really dug into it, and he looks at it from the IRS perspective. They really don't have a case. He's a non-citizen. He's already made a payment. They know that on the advice of counsel, he paid what was owed. There was nothing hidden. And so he thinks he's got a strong case in respect to the
Isn't
IRS.
it entirely based, like the evasion claim is entirely based on the notion of how they value it.
Yeah.
The timing. The timing.
Well,
of when
and
they
there was
come
a company involved. Excuse me. There was a company involved in transfer. So it was kind of a snapshot was taken of how much Bitcoin he had and what companies and what was on the filing and this kind of thing.
Why is Spain doing all this stuff? Or
Because
Spain's
they're
the place to be,
progressive.
man. They're owned by the fucking CIA.
yeah,
That's where that's where
if you want-
that's where you go if you want to violate attorney-client privilege. Like that's where they spied on
Yeah.
Assange and his attorney.
yeah.
Yeah.
I make
Yeah,
that-
One of my-
that's
if-
why
if-
John
one of my
Mack could be
oldest friends
uninstalled himself.
is a big huge lawyer there. He's a big deal there. He brought American football to Spain. He's a race. He races Ducatis. He's part of a huge law firm. And I asked him to take a look at John and help John, and it was a different person. It was a different person. Like after he looked into this, he was like, "Dude, this is fucking Spain. We're not some back." It's like he went all weird on me, and I'm like, "Dude, what do you think? You're holding a guy who hasn't done anything in your country, and then they said, oh, it's COVID. We're doing weird stuff because it's COVID. The whole reason why they held John and did all that stuff was because we have weird powers because it's COVID.
Wow.
So
Apparently, you go to Spain. From what I've heard, if you want trouble for somebody else, let's put it that way.
That's
Wow.
like centuries.
Just like John.
Spain has been the place to go for centuries. If you
I'm
want
gonna-
to just
I
decapitate
refresh the
someone.
questions. Make sure that you retweet, like, whatever on the show right now. But we have the questions here. All right. So
Good.
we're going to go to the first one.
We can
And-
skip this. This is
This is
basically
the-
everything I just covered.
All right.
One last thing I could mention is that his book came out, and 2 weeks later he got arrested.
Right. There's no, that's part of it. That's a big part of it.
we
Right.
go back to the first question for a second about him. So I've known Roger for like a long time. Since the days.
Yeah.
That's not the Johnny Cash middle finger, but when he did that, and he was literally. We talk about Bitcoin maxis and just how toxic they have become. Um, and we talk about how he called so much stuff that was right and was persecuted for it, like Alex Jones, or just wrote so many things that were crazy or that wrong were proven right. The fact that he was censored, all that. But I liked the guy as soon as I met him. Always have. He's but and Lee's watching the Kiffs. Kiffs is like, I thought he was a dick, man. Like a lot of people, thought he was an asshole. And I was
Propaganda.
like, no, man. I said, what? And it's like I thought Trump was a racist. I thought Trump was a rapist, and it's like, no. Why do you think that? Because he is. Why? Well, this person said it, and this. So Lee Kiffs interviewed him, and it changed his mind. He was like, "You're right. The dude's he's a good guy. He's a nice guy. He's like wants freedom. He's all about like real crypto and all the altruistic things and the good things that we are got into crypto for. And there's like three stories where I'm a firm believer that people really don't change that much, and if they do, it's because some external force like religion or something helps them change. And so it's very surprising when someone changes their opinion about someone, because they're like, oh, I thought they were this kind of person. And every person that I've had that's talked to him or met him, they have changed their opinion of what they thought. So he is from day one, coming into the space years and years ago, he literally was, went from Jesus to Satan, and then everybody was just, he's kind of like the biggest target.
Isn't that
John
the way of
was
things
one of
though?
the biggest targets, very similar, and now obviously even more similar. But John was more of a, I don't care, outspoken. He was just a quiet, like kind of, nice guy. I'm just gonna, go to St. Kitts. I'm not gonna be a loudmouth dick. And John was like, I'm a loudmouth dick. Fuck you, But I just wanted to say that one thing, that he's always been kind of targeted, and he's in my life where people don't change. You know what I mean? It's like what you think they are, they are. When you go to high school reunion, most of the people are still kind of the same way that they were, no matter if it's 10 years, 20 years, 30 years.
Yeah.
Everyone that has met him has been like, you were right. He's not what I had my opinion of him.
Yeah.
Yep. I
That's
mean,
what everyone
maybe
said.
it was there at the early. Like, I missed the whole phase when he became evil and the flipping off stuff, because it was obvious. I was an engineer, and it was obvious what was going on when that fork was happening. And there were several. Roger Ver was one. There were several others that were on the right side, and talking about the engineering, the software, the reality. It wasn't everybody, all of the people that, at least back in those days, the ones that took over the subreddit and that took over Bitcoin talk, they were all, it was obvious politics, and it was obvious that there was a lot of banking BS behind it, that none of what they were saying made technical sense, and yet they were able to convince the people who weren't technical that that's the way it was, because they were censoring everybody who was trying to offer a correct vision. And yeah, I've always been a fan of Roger, since way back early days, and it was just sad what happened. And when you read, I will tell you, it's really hard to read the Hijacking Bitcoin, because it's sad. You're like, you see, and to relive all the BS that happened back then, when the truth, it's pretty disgusting.
Obviously an op. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah.
What did they do
Yeah.
to Julian Assange? They had people believing he smeared poop on the walls at the embassy where he was in prison for 9 years, informally. Like, this is exactly their pattern. They smear the people who are pushing for positions that terrify them.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully Tucker interview. I mean, I was surprised that happened, and it's amazing because last I saw there were 5.5 million views on it, and a lot of people will wake up to it. And he even calls out the fact that Bitcoin has become nothing but a speculative investment for these stupid junior bankers.
He dropped me a hint.
Clowns in red pants telling you, you need to buy Bitcoin.
And these people don't give a shit
Digital
about
gold.
human liberty. They don't understand, or at least they don't give a fuck, I guess.
Yep.
That the reason that Bitcoin and crypto works so well to rebank the unbanked, or to give the service to people who have been deprived of it, is because it excludes all the nonsense that they want to add back into it. Like, they're like, well, we need to enhance it by adding all this, KYC, AML, anti-terror finance stuff, so we can stop terrorists from getting. Does it really stop terrorists from getting money? No.
None of that.
99 point. This is a fact. You can look it up. 99.9% of all illicit financial flows, all of them, make their destinations. We interdict a paltry less than 1% in many years.
Yeah. Well,
and that's
I would say, like in that scene,
like $380 billion globally on it.
It's seen in Blow and all the like organized crime movies, Goodfellas, Black, whatever. When the cops roll in, there's all those stacks of laptops and USBs. Those are other stacks of cash. It's all fiat money that is.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
These people
beyond
don't
that, though, it's
care.
like
They're
you
not
look at
targeted
the
by it.
surveillance state, which is cooked all into this. You look at the surveillance state, and then you look at the Boston bombing. You look at the assassination in Manhattan just recent, and they're monitoring everything. Yet they still don't know who these bad guys are ever. They'll
do
come
know.
to you. It's like, dude, have you
Intelligence
seen
gathering
this
is not
person?
the same thing as law enforcement. They probably just wanted to watch.
Yeah.
Well, they
also
want
depends
your
on
info
the
so they
bad
can come
guy.
after you. That's what it's for. So
Certain bad guys, they have all the
Well,
information right away, and then other people, they're like, we don't know anything about this guy.
yeah.
I remember Roger Ver. Well, I remember in 2014, 2015, everyone was talking about let's bank the unbanked with Bitcoin or some other crypto that was new on the
Let's
market.
unbank
Right?
all the banks.
Yeah, and then the first time I'd heard no, let's unbank the banked was from Roger, and so, that was long before the fork happened.
And that's me. Bitcoin isn't just for banking, right?
Yeah.
That's the goddamn thing that it pisses me off so much. It's like, okay, wait, what does banking? We need usury. We need you need to pay for your account. We probably need an ability to write checks backed with Bitcoin, right?
Yep. And we also need to fight information asymmetries on a public ledger.
So
It's interesting now though that regular Joes, the shoeshine boys and taxi cab drivers, which I still don't get that reference because there's no shoeshine boys anymore. That like they know unbanked, that they understand what it is and that it can happen, because it's happened to like higher profile people that you wouldn't think, and then the truckers and that kind of thing. But he dropped Roger off the hint to me like last month, because I was asking him to come on the show, and he is just very untrusting about social media. I'm like, and I told him this is not everybody likes you. It's not going to be a get you kind of thing. And he's
Sean,
like,
I don't want to deboost you.
But he said, thanks. I'll be striking back against the media and the USA's lies very soon. So and then the Carlson thing came out. It was shocking to me out of left field. I am sent me the link. And I was like, what?
Awesome. Yeah. That's the best thing that could have happened. And for crypto even. So
yeah.
And
it was a great personal risk for him to do this, because I'm sure his attorneys are saying,
Don't do it. Don't do
Don't
it.
say
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
Attorneys don't always know though, so
Another
they'll
interesting
play the
angle on
safe
all
way.
of this too is, I would say, like, people aren't really paying attention to the crypto side of things because for whatever reason it's sort of like IP law. They they hear cryptocurrency and they think, oh, it's finance, and therefore the regular rules of free speech do not apply.
Right.
And in
Right.
reality, all the regulation needed to cover crypto in the United States exists in Section 230 and the law we have around publishing falsehoods. Right, because ultimately what crypto is a distributed ledger, and as it applies to the internet, is just a publication of a list.
That's a First
If you
Amendment thing. I
publish
don't
that
even think you
without
need
intervening
anything
in it,
beyond
man,
the
it's
Constitution,
just
do you?
Section 230. You don't need to get that far.
I'm calling an audible.
Okay.
The Emperor's calling an audible. The audible
Okay.
is we have a lot of questions to go through, so we're going to have to do lightning rounds. From
Yeah,
this
very
point
good.
forward.
Very good. So yeah, I love it. Okay. AI, Conan 90. Elon Musk responded to Tucker Carlson's interview on X with bang bang exclamation points. Do you believe that that he was aware of Roger Ver's case and his work before the latest Carlson episode? Or do you believe that he was genuinely learning about it for the first time? If you do believe that he knew about Roger before the interview and what Roger was going through, do you think he is seeding his responses to make more people aware of the distinction in the crypto community between Bitcoin Core loyalists and utility maximalists? What do you guys think?
I think my mind's real quick. I think yes and no. I don't think he goes that deep as to the loyalists and maximists and that, but I do think he was aware of it just as a freedom oriented person, and the being in media and the I want to say travesty, but I sound like I'm clutching my pearls when I say that. But just the case in general, and it's like
painting couches, everybody.
It's like Assange, because he talked about John, and so he's aware of that from a libertarian kind of aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is this lightning round?
Lightning round.
I got one on this. I got a quick one on this.
Okay.
Elon Musk's learning pattern is to study things deeply once he discovers that he needs to know them, right? So you got to watch over, for instance, the election season, him just get to know politics, and it started off with some very basic opinions, and before you knew it, he was digging into some edge of Mises Austrian type of stuff, and the evolution continues. I think crypto to him was an annoyance on Twitter. When people would pretend to be him and try to scam people, and he saw most of it as a scam, and I think he's learning, and I think that things like this teach, and I do think that was the first time I was hearing about it.
Okay, all right, Zach.
I mean, I'm not gonna push back on what Sean said. Yes and no. I mean, he doesn't go deep enough, but at the same time, there's always been that backdrop in his head. I mean, on what the crypto community is all about, what this loyalist versus utility maximus rivalry is all about. I mean, so it was the fact that he was able to bring on Roger kind of is a testament to Tucker Carlson and understanding that this is information that needs to go out. So I mean, that's my piece on it.
Oh, wait, you're responding to Tucker Carlson being aware of it, or sorry, I was responding.
Oh, I'm Elon Musk, and then as far as Elon Musk, that's another. I agree with Greg on the idea that Elon is all about learning and reinterpreting. So, I mean, yeah, I didn't even realize that Elon Musk responded. I thought it was Tucker Carlson, but yeah, I mean, for both of them, it's really about this information needs to get out. So
yeah, I didn't get that either. I was talking about Tucker Carlson. I didn't about Elon. Yeah.
Okay, William.
I just realized Elon.
My quick answer is this: his power comes not just from the power of his bank account and the size of his bank account. His power comes obviously from what he can say and all the people that follow him on X. So he did a show on SNL about Doge, And so he, I think, was aware of Roger's case. And I think he also was careful in not trying to side on one side or another on the Bitcoin fork and the Maxi play. So I think he wants to have both sides look at him in favor. Say, hey, we like you, Elon.
All
So
right,
I
Andrew.
think, but he's going
to
support Roger in this.
Yeah. Okay.
I believe that it was seeded personally, but I didn't know what everybody else thought. So, and I believe he knew about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you saying that he's Operation Mockingbird?
I'll say that I think that he probably knew about it. Why? Because I think if you look back at his war with SEC, that in my opinion led him to picking up Doge in order to troll them. And that's where his Doge interest came from. I think that he became somewhat of, deeper aware of what the SEC was doing in crypto. And I have hopes that when he gets in there with the big Doge, that he will. How do I want to say this? I don't want to say take revenge, but that he will, do what needs to be done. It doesn't even have to be vengeful. But he needs to fix what's going on there, and he is at least very aware of it, having dealt with them at Tesla. So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah,
well, I hope.
And that's a sorry to interrupt your ruling, Emperor, but we do have to point out the fact that that Operation Choke Point and all these things happened, and you hear hide nor hair of it from Elon. How much of that has to do with the fact that the SEC is trying to take him out for what he said on Twitter so long ago? You did not see, for example, in the Twitter files, anything to do with censorship of crypto, which we know was happening.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's truth. Okay.
Yep.
Next, I am for I am. All right, I'm going to vote here. Pure evil. Okay, I'm not going to say anything here. Question: what have we learned from Roger's case? Maybe the better question is, what steps should blockchain companies, developers, or investors take to mitigate similar legal risks? Who wants to start? Let's start with Zach. Let's just go straight down the line.
What have we learned of Roger? What we've learned of Roger's case is this is lawfare. It's it's the spinning example of it. It's to take out the top tier, basically the face of crypto. I mean, and if they can go after Roger Ver, then they can go after you. So, I mean, what are the steps that everybody from all the way down to investors to just your nitty gritty of like I have a little bit of crypto here and there. Protect your assets as best as you can. Get yourself a hard wallet. Get off the custodial interchange, because if it's not your keys, it's not your money.
Yep. William.
Very good point.
William.
Yeah, you're on mute.
You're muted. Oh, you're muted. Who's muting the
Still
Emperor?
muted.
Emperor, you're on mute.
We'll come back. We'll go to Andrew. We'll come back.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Okay. What have we learned from Roger's case? Well, I want to comment about stuff you guys were talking about earlier. I didn't get a chance to interject. Roger had 2 accountants running over his numbers, from what I remember. And the second comment I want to make is that you were talking about corruption and stuff earlier. In the United States, you bribe at the top, and you can't get a award in because there's so much competition for that bribery. Roger tried to go to a place where, you one and done, you made your citizenship because you made a contribution. He's following economic policy and ideas that people have been talking about for a long time. Being sponsorship for investment and stuff, sponsored for your immigration and paid for it yourself. If we had a more realistic system, which I'm hoping the situation that he's going through right now will contribute to a more realistic political system, he would be able to have the conversation, and this wouldn't even been an issue. So,
okay, yep. We can go back to William.
I forgot what I said, but what was the question again? Oh, what did we learn?
could you-
Don't build in the U.S. Do not build in the U.S. Do not try to start a blockchain in the U.S. That's what I've learned. Don't invest in a blockchain that started in the U.S.
We might win still.
Agreed.
You're on
Next.
mute, Joe.
I'm
I
sorry.
can go next.
I'm sorry. Yeah, go next. Go next.
Okay, I'm thinking that what we learned is we actually need to ditch taxes that take place post hoc, and we need to have an entirely transaction tax based system for our tax base, to the extent that we can afford that. We have to cut to make that reasonable, and anything that we can't afford to do on a transaction tax is just an invitation to moral hazard and tyranny.
Very good. Very good. Am I up next? Has everyone gone through?
Sean hasn't gone.
I haven't.
Sean, you go, Sean.
The question is not. I think it's just like another page in kind of the awakening of people. Okay, what I am said, don't build in the U.S. Blah blah blah. I'm trying to find the article, but I don't know if you guys know what Trump said, but he said it's an open call to any company. He said if you want to invest $1 billion or more in any company or anything in the United States, you are fast tracked when it comes to regulatory shit, when it comes to whatever it is. Like he's going to assign special, people to get you through the EPA, get you through whatever as quick as possible. I think building in the U.S. and the crippling bureaucracy, which you've always talked about, people having to deal with, and the reason why a lot of just basically we're having a brain drain in the country is because I think that is going to go away. That's the main thing. Whenever anyone now, it's like, hey, you're an asshole. Why are you an asshole? He's like, I just want to drill. I just want to, it's like I want to make money here. I want to make money here. I want to bring money in here. And they're like, yeah, but let's talk about, identity politics. He goes, yeah, man, we're gonna make lots of money. It's so he's not even playing the game. So there's not a lot.
Isn't that such bullshit? Isn't that such bullshit? You have American companies who, by the way, Dragon Chain was worth $1 billion at one point, and I would have been eligible for that back then, but they took it all away from us, and instead now some Indian company or some Chinese company is going to come into the U.S., spend $1 billion and get first in line in front of us. Fuck that shit. That's
I understand that makes you mad, but it's
a pile of shit.
It's still, but I think it's
going to fail because you're going to get all the corrupt companies here owning all the senators, doing all the shit, enslaving all the people who live here.
Well, that's why it has to go hand in hand.
And you're going to end up with 32 flavors.
That's the point, though, right?
The crypto industry.
It's ridiculous. It's trash. That is total trash. And the other thing, the Bitcoin reserve stuff is ridiculous too. I mean, now here's the thing. If he comes in and says, okay, we want America to be crypto friendly. We want to be first in the world with crypto. There are ways to do that. A Bitcoin reserve, maybe that's not really. That's kind of pointless.
That's skin in the game for the states. It means they have an incentive not to devalue the currency by their actions. That's actually a fair reason.
It's how do I say this? It's just banker bullshit. It's the same stuff
it's kind of banker bullshit, but it's also kind of smart dealing, right? In the sense that if you want to create a situation where somebody doesn't want to hurt a thing, give them a whole bunch of it.
I'm with Greg on that. I think it's, and I understand your point of view, Joe, because you're Joe, and you've been through this shit. But I hope that also it basically you're unshackled, and you get an apology letter or something.
Yeah. Do you think that's going to happen? No, it's not going to happen. They're going to say, oh, that's a shit coin. Oh, that's a shit coin. But then they're going to let FTX come in. Why? Because it's a Jewish dude who paid off all the Democrats. That's all it takes. I just need to curl my hair a little more and freaking come in and change my name, put Stein at the end. I'll be Rothstein, and I'll come in and I'll be fine then. Apparently.
It's time.
Let the IDS flow.
Is
I'm
Berg better? I don't know
optimistic,
which
man.
one.
I think you're gonna
Either way,
win.
I'm just so fucking sick of this shit. And and you know, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna be pro Bitcoin. It's like, yay, somebody said Bitcoin. It's like, come on, give me a break. It's so freaking. It's
Did you see the hour and a half
I couldn't agree with you more.
in-depth show on the Liberty attack by one of the survivors on Candace Owens?
I saw that last night. I was, that was amazing.
I was surprised. I'm surprised by.
Good for her.
I'm saying that there's actually a shift
There is.
in the world, not just America, but you know, honestly, America is the most important. But there's a shift in the world against the corruption, against the way things have been. I'm the doom and gloom guy out of everybody, and you know that. I'm like, nah, history shows that we're doing this. History shows that we're gonna have some guy that's gonna shoot a CEO and be a hero, and it's gonna start the people, you know, on this track. History shows that's how empires fall, and I'm saying I feel that things are turning. So
I do too. But I don't want these false things. That's like, oh yeah, we're gonna, you know, a Bitcoin. In the old days, I would have said that when Bitcoin was actually legitimate and it wasn't just paper. Wasn't paper. Now I just think it's more of the same, and it's all just bankers. You know, it's like I'm not interested. I didn't get into this to make a Bitcoin central bank. Okay. And you know, we got into this for liberty, but I'm no longer what I would call a libertarian. Because I don't think it'll work. I think it is so easy for those people to come in and buy off anybody. And when you take the libertarian bent, you just that's why they love democracies. That's why they wanted democracies in Europe, so they could control them, because they can easily pay off people before they even get into parliament, right? So they know who's there. They know they control them, and you know, it's they either pay them off or they have pictures of them, you know, screwing little kids. That's what they do, and we all know it. We all know that, right? And to say, oh yeah, this is now, if they come in and they say, okay, what's gone on in the past, well, even during their administration, because you know all of this shit started during Trump's administration, by the way. If they were to come in and say, hey, yeah, let's be pro crypto, and anything that's not fraud related we'll throw out, you know, then I'm all for it. I mean, I believe that is probably the way it's going to go, but there's just too much that is being assumed when we know what happened last time. You know, he didn't pardon the January 6ers. He didn't pardon Assange. He didn't pardon Ulbricht. He didn't pardon any of the people he pardoned. And you look at the list of the people he pardoned.
He started the CME.
They were spies and rappers that he pardoned, celebrities, essentially, right? And so that's what I have to go on. And so I'm like, I'm calling bullshit until I see it.
I'm the same way. Exactly. And I get lots of shit from Lisa about it. But he couldn't pardon Jan Sixers because he was out, right?
No, he was there before. They put.
He was there. He had a couple weeks before.
January 6th, and he left January 20th.
He could.
Yeah, so he had a couple weeks. He could have pardoned them.
You look at the interviews.
They hadn't
asked why he didn't.
I had friends that were there that
you
were
look at his
targeted.
ridiculous answer.
He could have.
What
did they?
Didn't pardon Assange. Just look at that, and you're like, "What? What is this? What is this?"
Same time though?
The Assange thing. He was
what's the
Assange was trying to play ball with
Speaking of January 6th, what is the term? There's a term for an indirect pardon before criminal charges or
commutation. I think is what you're looking at.
Yeah, something like that. He could have actually pardoned them.
No, that's a
prior to.
Commutation. Sorry, that's not it.
Yeah,
there's in fact Biden just put in whatever the word is, because I saw that this morning. The pardon for a bunch of people who haven't been charged with stuff yet.
Yeah.
So see, I mean, Democrats are doing exactly what they're saying they're against.
Yeah,
it's
So
yeah,
and this is
rules-based order.
Look
where
at rules based order.
makes the rules.
Look at Gaza, rules based order. And you if you look at Roman history, it's very interesting. Some of the look at the Gracchi brothers, look at some of the other stuff. Basically, the Clintons ramped stuff up, Obama ramped stuff up, and then Trump ramped stuff up, and Biden's ramping stuff up, and it's obvious that there is no law. All that matters is who you are. So just watch. There's crazy shit coming. So anyway, whatever.
Well,
George Bush is sitting there sad because you didn't recognize him.
Yes. Well, no, not that goes without saying, I guess, right?
No, he's not sad. He's too busy being low on blood because he's being fed on by Dick Cheney.
Damn, yeah.
Oh, brother. Oh, okay. Question: what does this case reveal about the U.S. government's stance on cryptocurrency regulation, taxation of cryptos, and free speech, as well as educating the public about the dangers of central banking? Who wants to start? Let's go backwards. Let's Let's start. We'll start with Greg.
Oh, man, this is a tough one to answer right now, because I think partially because of what Joe said, there really isn't a strict notion of rule of law that's well established in this country right now. What I think what it reveals about the U.S. government's stance on cryptocurrency regulation is that it's entirely ad hoc, and that it's power serving, and that it's unprincipled. And that if we want to educate the public, we can't, because there's no knowing what's going to happen. Right now we're all sitting kind of on this verge, this sort of
What's all
you guys watch the movie? Y'all watch the movie Dune. Paul wasn't sure what was going to happen until he took the water of life. Right? He was sort of certain, maybe, but also not. And that's kind of where we sit. I think that what we do over the next 6 to 8 months is going to shape the future history of this. And in another year, we can talk about teaching people what the thing is again, because we have no idea what it is right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Greg said something that has changed my way of thinking about life, and it's Roger did the same thing. Joe, you did. It's like this one off the cuff thing that you say that punches me in the face. Roger, we're talking, and he said, there really wasn't real actual history in all the history of mankind until blockchain was created.
Check.
And then it's like, oh my God, you're right. And the thing that Greg said it was a while ago. It was that when automobiles were coming out, that one of the biggest lobbyists, and this industry that had immense political power was the people that made riding crops.
That big riding crop was a power player.
They had huge, because that was like the thing, and to think of how that changed so quickly, and how now it's like it's silly that the makers of riding crops and I assume other horse products, they had so much political power because they had so much money. It changed, and I think that Roger's case is a literal mirror being held up to the way all the negative of what Hester Pierce has come out and said. Everyone said, hey man, we've been being ambiguous, we've been putting this off, we've been doing what we want, we've been cherry picking, because it's a completely new thing. We didn't want to mess with it. We used it to mess with who we wanted to mess with. There is no fairness. There is no framework. It needs to be done. And I think that this is something that is really putting, holding a light up to just basically amplifying everything that's been said in the past year.
Sean, I got to add one thing, that one little wrinkle that I learned about the whole riding crop situation that's useful to compare to another dead industry. You guys remember the lamp lighters that used to exist, because we had gas lamp lights everywhere. right? You had to have people go around and light them, but you also had to have lamp oil, and you didn't hear about like a lamp oil lobby pushing really hard, right? Having any kind of influence on the adoption of electricity. It didn't happen. And I think there's a critical period between, when that would have happened and when the riding crop industry almost succeeded at stalling the adoption of the automobile, or requiring people to have a riding crop on them while they drove it around. Actually, was one of the things they tried to do.
It's like the Gilets jaunes.
That was after 1913 with the riding crop thing. Pre-1913, when the lamplighter started to go away. I feel like there's an interesting turning point there where lobbying became more powerful the more money was flowing through a fiat system. So it may be more profound for Bitcoin than just that comparison, because it could shift things back to the other way.
Andrew.
It makes me think about let me draw a comparison between the old right Republican stances and the new right Republican stances. So we're kind of in a liminal space, or transition period, like you guys are talking about. And when you're in one of those situations, there's a lot of volatility, a lot of noise. It's hard to keep concentrated focus on where you're going, because you don't know exactly what you're building and how you're going to build it. The CIA and the FBI, they're trying to get their piece, and the other organs of the government are trying to get their piece so they can guarantee their survival. But we keep building alternatives
in Syria, right?
Jump ship. Yeah. Well, I'm talking about.
No, we won in Syria. We got them to rebrand.
Yeah. But they're trying to build their own life raft in the moment, as things are really unstable. But we can use that to our advantage. And like Roger was talking about in his Tucker Carlson interview, he's talking about Xano, and there was layers connected between Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Core, and I think that kind of behavior is beneficial to us in the long term, because it really dampens their ability to maneuver and move forward.
Good point,
William.
My quick answer of what we learned from the case in regards to regulation is that we like to operate or think we're operating in a fair world, or life is fair, but life is not fair. And as you get older, you learn this more and more every day. And lawfare is a proof, and this is another example. His case is another example of lawfare, that the world is not fair, and the court is not fair, and it's an unfair court. And the powers to be will pick winners and losers, and they will use the money printing machines to prop up those that they wish to win, and sequester and suppress, or even off, the people that they don't want to win or don't want to have a voice. And Roger's case tells us that. Crypto regulation, I think, Greg, you talk about it. Well, I want it to be ambiguous for a while so that we can build. And because if it's well defined, then we're going to be constrained that much more and not be able to build. And the more I thought about that, and that's been playing in my mind over and over, Greg, you planted a seed, and I appreciate that. And so my solution to that is, I still go back to my roots now, being an agorist. Counter economics. Building a parallel system is critical. And at this juncture, I think Roger's spot on when he talks about Monero and Xano, and doing this in a private world, in a private matrix, in a parallel system that they can't see. I don't want the fucking government looking inside the black box, or figuring out what's in the black box, what goes in the fucking black box, or what comes out the fucking black box, or where it goes to whoever it goes to. Right. They have no fucking reason to see it or know it exists. No. They've violated our liberties. They've violated
obey the law
our
that's
existence
just.
And our individualism. I don't want them. They're evil.
Right.
They should be done with.
And they'll say shit like, how will we verify that you're paying taxes? Well, you don't need to verify it. Actually, we're on our honor here, and people will be honorable about that. By and large.
Zach.
I think this goes to the most basic. I mean, when it all comes down to it, this all proves that every right that you perceive that you have, even if it's considered constitutional, is all positive and trash. You have no rights. Your only right is to be left alone. Your only right is to live your life and to figure out a means to survive that life. And the only way that you can do that is by figuring out how you can survive, is to defend yourself in any means necessary. Self-defense within the cryptosphere would be protecting those assets and using those assets in a counter mechanism against the nefarious odds against you to deprive you of your right to be left alone. That's it. So like your natural rights mean more than anything that is constitutional, anything that is privileged. Even freedom of speech really doesn't mean anything, because as long as there's governments or people that are perceived to be above you and have authority, well, they're just going to take away that freedom. So
Dude,
you
nailed it.
need to understand you are the only authority in your own life, and you have to be the one that survives your life.
Lane's
Yeah, I've
eating,
been watching.
prancing
I've been watching
cannibalism.
so many like arguments when it comes to the government, and they're arguing over this like minutia, and I'm like, why? Why is the whole point your business? Why is it your business for the whole, not the little part that you're like, we shouldn't do this. This is wrong. We need to do like the whole thing. Why are you involved? You know, sometimes there was just a case which I was in talking to Greg about, where a state Supreme Court, said that it was unconstitutional to have a curfew for kids. And growing up, I came from Europe, and the first time I learned about it, I was walking through the graveyard at like 1 a.m, and the cops came. And they're like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm cutting through here, going home from my friend's house." They're like, "Well, you're violating curfew. You have to be home by midnight. You're 14." I was like, "Oh, I didn't know. I just moved here. Okay." And then grew up. And then when I'm 16, 17, I never thought about it. My parents said you could come home by 3, be home whenever. And then I would drive, and, it didn't I never had the issue. But these people got pulled over, and they're like 16, 17. They were coming from a concert, and this cop ticketed them all for, "Oh, you're out past curfew, $100 each." 3 of the kids' families paid the $100. The fourth one, the dad's like, "No, why? I told my kid he could go to the concert. They weren't doing anything wrong when they got pulled over. They were coming home." And then the city attorney said, "Well, it's kind of probably unconstitutional, but just pay the money." And it went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court, no, you have the right to travel. And my kid who went to school to be a marshal and has studied the law, he goes, "Well, I don't think the Constitution applies to, kids." And I was like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, a lot of this stuff, you
Okay, can I
gotta
say this? The answer to this is power. It's case real that
Constitution
everything
acknowledges the
about
reality of human liberty. It doesn't
everything
give
about
you
the
liberty.
U.S. government's stance on anything, crypto regulation, rate of tax, and free speech is all about power. You can see how they've twisted. Here's this new thing, and by the way, it's not, when I say the U.S. government, I mean the banks and the VCs, because everybody in the U.S. government, bureaucrats and politicians, are just bought.
It's the government
and or
mentality. It's interlocked,
blackmailed, right? In the worst case, which you look at. I think the higher they are, the more likely it isn't that they're paid. It is more likely that they have pictures of them doing stuff. And
they want to be able to call state and ask for favors.
It's all about power. And the funny thing is, being as it is that cryptocurrency has, it glances against. I mean, a lot of people think it is only about finance and currency, but the fact that that's where it started meant an entirely different thing for a new technology. And when I first got into it, I didn't consider this, but I considered, hey, I was there in the early internet days, and I remember how that developed and how the powers that be in communications were the telco networks. So as you know, AT&T, Sprint, MCI, all those guys. And guess what? They didn't lobby against the U.S. government saying let's do hands off and let this develop, and that resulted in trillions of dollars of value being created. And things that exist now that would have never existed otherwise because they were hands off. And what did the banking world do though when they saw some competition coming in with this crypto technology? They went after it to kill it. Why? Because the bankers are fucking evil, right? And until they're gone, we're always going to deal with this shit.
It's not even that they're evil. It's worse than that.
It is worse.
It's worse than that they're evil. It's that they don't give a shit. It's the worst kind of evil. It's the worst kind of evil. It's the kind of evil where you see bad things happening to people, and because it's not you don't act.
It's not that they're evil. It's that they're sentonic in the fact that they worship themselves.
They just don't care about anybody.
They don't care. Yeah. Satanism isn't about being evil. It's just about the fact that you don't care.
This is
exactly.
Zach speaks the truth. Okay, let's go to the next question.
Sorry, my Catholicism came out, and we have our problems too.
It's the weirdest thing because it's like I don't want to use that as an argument, but it's so obvious that it's hard to not use that as an argument.
How do they battle free speech before movie theaters? You can't yell fire in a movie theater. Well, how did they battle free speech before that one? I'm just wondering what the phrase was.
With every tool in the tool belt, right?
People had honor.
Speech has been the enemy of power ever since the printing press.
People had honor, and I think there, maybe even the worst of the worst in lawyers at least would be held to some standard of shame if they went. Which now that doesn't exist, right? There is no law. There is no shame.
Well, I mean, and it should be more apparent now to everybody that money is speech. Right.
Exactly.
That it really is. The Supreme Court nailed it on the head when they said that.
Yep.
And to bring that in the full circle, money is speech, and that is the reason why Lincoln passed the National Bank Act and proposed the Greenback Initiative,
before they killed him.
He was the banker. He was the actual treasury with his executive action. So
and
the government wanted
off right now on this one, but I'm going to say it out loud just in case it didn't occur. The very first, the great granddaddy of mass surveillance engines was the Bank Secrecy Act.
Yep.
Ooh. Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
In the chat, real quick, Viva Las Vegas X says in the next 4 years could mirror the .com run, in my opinion. Now we just need Dragon on major exchanges again. I agree with him that we need Dragon on major exchanges again in that cases it gets settled or dismissed or whatever. But I'm hopeful that the next 4 years will be good for crypto and the crypto space and bring in more investors and wake more people up. However, having said that, in the next 4 years, that could all go to shit again because every 4 years we elect a new president and put in a new SEC czar or whatever you want to call it, and it all goes to shit again.
I have high hopes that Elon Musk with Vivek, with Ron Paul, at their side, it might actually do something real. I mean, when they say how many employees should this agency have, and Musk says 0, that's the correct answer. And by the way, I'm hoping he isn't saying 0 because it could be run by AI. That's not a problem, right?
No.
If it is that
the least efficient part of the government is the one that enforces financial crime.
If we were to eliminate the Fed, the house of cards would fall. The only reason that they can conduct these unlimited, infinite wars and that they can keep us enslaved forever is because they have unlimited money. We kill that, we all become free.
That said, the Fed has a gun to our head right now and can kill us, so they have to play nice.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Fed, I'm reading the Creature from Jekyll Island.
Yes.
Again, and
good book.
It's such a beginner's book.
Yeah.
The way it goes over, basically, it talks. It's like a kid's book for for conspiracies for waking up. It's like the Fed did this and they created an agency to make it look like they're part of the government when they're not. And I remember I was like in 10th grade, and I grew up the biggest military base in the world, and I was like, all those realty companies were, they're all over the place. They rent to soldiers, and a lot of them are pieces of crap. And I was like, what if I started a rental agency and had it black and white, generic, font and symbol. This is before I knew the word font, and and called it government approved realty. You know what I mean? It's like all the L soldiers would go to it, because it, but and then someone's like, oh no, you can't because there's this law that it's misleading, blah blah blah.
Right.
But I was like, it seems, kind of covered under the free speech thing. I just call my company whatever I want. I call it government approved.
And now you'd be better off, honestly, cleaning out the toilet with your bare hands and trying to sell handshakes, right? Like the government brand is tainted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you create a new token called Federal Token, it would fall flat.
Yeah.
Well, they have
It would
that.
definitely be a
investing in
meme.
They're
coin.
called stable coins.
It
They're
would be a
always
meme
down.
coin, that's for sure.
But they don't say
And
that.
by the way, I mean, I didn't say it earlier. The other thing that Trump has said, something about removing capital gains on crypto, that could take off too. But they really, really need to fix the issue of the SEC going after all of the projects that are doing something with real utility, trying to do something in the world.
Like Bitcoin.
Software components are not money.
Yeah, and I recommend rope.
And they
And
shouldn't
I've
treat
said
it like
that too.
that.
If they don't have rope behind, in the box behind them, nothing's going to happen. So,
When we talk about current events, I have a comment on that.
Okay.
But I think for a psychological experiment, should put two meme coins out, Fed coin and anti-Fed coin, see which one takes off.
yeah.
No,
Okay.
you
Roger
could
Ver's
actually
case. This is
do
the last
an
question. We already
algorithmic stable coin by
covered this
playing
at
them
all.
off against each other. They'd
Um,
hate
it's
that.
gonna.
I kind of think we did.
got
I'd
Okay.
only say
We
that
kind of did.
investors are going to probably, I think more people are going to go more the privacy route
Yes.
based off of this. I would hope so. I think the other thing is there are going to be some investors that are going to say, you know what, I don't know, I'm getting up there in age, and the last thing I want is go into my retirement and now start facing a bunch of taxation lawfare from the IRS.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to
Suppose
stay
you
away
could
from crypto.
tokenize when the Fed creates money. Like anytime new money's created, suppose you could tokenize it. You would have an accurate
Wait,
way
isn't that
to
what,
call inflation?
Tether isn't that Tether?
No.
Yeah.
Tether's a stable coin.
You just-
Tether's a stable coin. No.
You defined Tether.
Tether puts the nominal value, not the actual value, on chain. You get one stable coin per US dollar. You don't get a fractional stable coin for loss in purchasing power.
Oh, I'm
right?
going to invest
Isn't
in
that
this.
M1 and
It's an
M2?
import. It's
Oh,
like
here's
going
the
into a file and writing import inflation.
Here's the thing: when push comes to shove, and the Fed is really coming close to collapse, or other aspects of the the matrix we live in right now, that you mentioned that I don't want to be in crypto because of that lawfare. It's going to be not your keys, not your coins is going to apply to your freaking 401k
Right.
sooner or later.
Yeah.
They're going to come out your
also kinda like
401k,
saying, like,
and if you
I
don't
wanna be in
hold
the
it,
war. I don't
that
want to own a
way.
gun
It's
because I
gone.
don't want to be in the Revolutionary War, right? Like the war's happening.
yes, yeah,
Mhm.
it hasn't gone hot yet, but
On this
No,
question, I think it's
But it's
getting
about
there.
to.
But on this question,
It
I
is getting there.
think it's a.
Cold War is.
I
is
think when
enough for
when
money.
you look at Assange and what that meant to journalism, now there's journalism's dead. There's no journalisms. There's no journalists because they know there's no journalism. And I sent you guys that story, which I thought was fake. That woman, there was a 15-year-old had gang raped, and she sent a message to, and they all walked away, got free. They were free, walked away from me. She sent a message to one of the rapists that, hey, you're an asshole, and she got arrested and got 18 months.
Fucking go figure.
She's 20-year-old who got 18 months in prison for, I believe it's 18 months, but she got arrested for
Is
sending
this
him
in the
the tweet.
UK.
and in the UK.
Oh.
So
Oh, yeah,
I asked,
the land of
and
tyranny,
he's like,
right?
"Oh yeah, dude, a woman got arrested, or a guy got arrested.
We should invade.
He
We'd be greeted as
posted
liberators.
that a guy was smelly. He said they were smelly, and they arrested him. So I think that that's kind of the free speech, you know, poster boy. I think Assange is the journalist poster boy, and I think that Ver is the investor poster boy of how bad things have gotten, and how they need to change.
Yeah, but they're really three aspects of the same phenomenon.
I want to build on my response to the last question real quick.
Sure.
I was talking about liminal spaces. It makes me think of the Old Testament where they talk about how they're wandering through the desert for 40 years. This, like I was talking about before, the organs of the government, they're going to separate because there's all these new projects, but there's really powerful projects, and they're going to be forced to, divert their resources in order to try to compromise these other projects, but they're going to get weaker. So that's my response to
Did
that
anybody
question.
get into this space not seeing this coming? In fact, how many people used to, in the early days, go to conferences and chest up about how fucking badass they were for being in this thing that was going to fight the power, and watch those people turn tail now? Who's really here still, right? Are you going to fight this thing, or are you going to wander off now that they're actually using real live ammunition against us?
You know what? I think they're going to go into the shadows and fight, and that's where they're fighting, like, Tornado Cash. And the only part out of the shadows is the regulation and trying to imprison these people who created Tornado Cash.
No, I'm with you.
That's what's going on. So the real fighters are going into the dark to fuck over the system.
No, we've all had to,
and I hope so.
Sort of gain a crash course in counterterrorism and counterintelligence, because we've been targeted not by the security state, but by the intelligence state.
Yeah.
I think Sal had a story about this where he would go to a meetup convention for crypto back in the day, and then he started going mid last decade after the big 2017, and then all of a sudden you see all these guys with suits. It's like you could blatantly tell he's just this dude, this crypto anarchist wearing I mean, totally different the culture has shifted from these banker asset types, these investors and feds, to
it's all punks and squares
to what it's really about. Punks going against the system, that rage against the machine type scenario, which of course rage against the machine
they
is
for the machine now.
Yeah. So
we're gonna recommend everybody wear a mask really loudly right before we sing about rebellion.
Exactly.
So, what are the current events? I have some Santa Claus memes. So,
nice.
Santa believers.
Santa Claus, how we teach children about the surveillance state.
Speaking of IDS, Israel Derangement Syndrome, since Syria has effectively become an Al-Qaeda outpost now, Israel is rambunctiously setting course to control their border and bombard what they perceive as chemical weapons depots of Assad.
Oh, God. Are you serious?
Yes.
This is gonna.
You guys are all aware that the people that they're claiming are the good guys in power right now are literally just a rebrand of ISIS.
ISIS,
right?
yeah. I think
literally
it
the
shows
same
so much
guy.
hypocrisy. What's going on? The United States so far, we're just like, hey, we like these guys. They're good guys, but Britain's already sending them money. $11 million.
My favorite part.
Andrew, would you like to jump in on this and say your piece? You know exactly what this is about.
Let me say my favorite part real fast. We're not pulling troops out because we didn't win. We have to fight ISIS. Still,
right.
Even though we put ISIS in power under a rebrand.
I got to comment on that, but Andrew, you go ahead first, and then I'm going to say what
That's all I
watched.
I was
Rand Paul talk about this last night.
I was just going to say it looks like this. This is definitely pulled Netanyahu's butt out of the fryer. He's probably going to have another, term in office after this is all said and done, because it's the distraction campaign for him.
So we have 1,000 troops there, 900 and something.
Yeah.
And Rand Paul said they're not troops, they're targets. They're and most and that they're spread out. The most
Mm.
concentration of troops we have is like 90 to 100 troops in one place. These people, I think, these people are there
Christ.
just as a trigger, so they'll die
Potential hostages.
and put us
Yeah.
get us into it.
Oh,
I think it
Pearl
shouldn't be
Harbor
there. Should
2.0.
pull it out. And then it was on the Rubin report. He played a clip of Trump that he said, ISIS is our
Thank you.
enemy, and the Taliban is our enemy, and they were fighting each other here in this region. They're killing each other, and my generals came in and was like, "Hey, we gotta go in there," and he's like, "Why? They're our enemies. Let them fight each other. Let's sit back, get some popcorn, and let them fight." And he was like, I don't know. I'm not a general. I think I'd make a good one, but it was, and that was the joke, and that's what everybody focused on, that he said that. But it's like basic common sense. Your enemies are killing each other. Let them kill each other. And Trump now said, "This is not our war. We have nothing to do here. We should not touch this with a 10-foot pole. Stay out of it." And Rand Paul is like, "I'm completely for that." It's not Rand Paul. It's the other guy. The
Thomas
doctor.
Massey.
The doctor who went against Fauci. Maybe
Bhattacharya.
Who?
Rand Paul is the
Bhattacharya?
doctor who went.
Or no. Not was it Bhattacharya, or are you talking about the guy that was actually in the White House for a while as Trump's advisor?
Who's the nice guy that Borat went after?
Kentucky?
Who?
From Kentucky?
Yeah,
That's Rand Paul.
it is Rand Paul. Okay,
Yeah,
I
Rand
forgot.
Paul.
I forgot the other guy who was in Texas. The anarchist guy. Whatever.
I know,
Rand Paul's
I know
one
you're
of-
talking about. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I can't remember his name either. It's weird. He's like a hero. But anyway, Rand Paul's like, we shouldn't be there. And he called him out. He goes, "We're leaving these small amount of troops here, the military is, to get killed, to bring us in." And then the whole thing about, the Liberty came out. The whole thing, the Lusitania, that was a military ship?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the same thing.
I was never taught that in school. It was just a passenger liner that they attacked that Americans were on.
And
There's
propaganda.
so many times we can see where there's a setup.
Dude, the
And I
Gulf of
think
Well,
Tonkin.
they had
There's
they
a-
had
They just had a
guns on that ship.
hallucination about getting attacked because the seas were rough and their new radar tech wasn't all that good
Yeah.
yet. And so they had a bunch of false
Yeah.
positives on the radar that they ended up, I guess this malfunction is the kind of crisis we can use, and told a story about how we got attacked in the Gulf of Tonkin, right? Like, didn't happen. That was how they justified Vietnam.
Yeah,
That's
and that's
over
what they
and
did with
over
Liberty
and over.
about, but they didn't. It didn't work, right? So yeah,
I mean, and then
Liberty
don't forget the
example,
Gulf War, right?
right-
Don't forget the Gulf
right,
War.
Sean?
How about
Right,
that consultant that we paid to testify that, or the kid of the consultant of one of the Saudis that we paid to come testify over and over that they were killing babies in Kuwait.
Yep.
For amusement.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. They just made that up.
No.
yep.
That was WMD. Like, have we gotten into a war we didn't start surreptitiously? I don't know.
Yeah, when you have
That's
infinite
what-
money, you can do a lot of crazy things. So
Did World War One really end?
No.
No. But on a
No.
break.
It
We're,
just ground
we're still
itself into
paying for
meat.
what
Change
else? What else
matter
happened?
phases.
So we had
How
Syria.
about that CEO that got assassinated?
Yeah, we covered that last week, right? A little bit.
By
It
Luigi?
just happened.
A little
Well,
bit.
I
but
mean, now
I
they've got
think
a guy they've arrested.
I think
The
there's
guy's
something very
manifesto came
interesting
out.
about that because, okay, and this is I did my show on Tuesday was about this Truth Tuesday, that because we're back on track with the history for the fall of the empire.
Mhm.
It's now us and Lisa said it like a reaction. Well, violence is never right, and blah 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 blah. And then I said, violence. I keep going back to that scene in Starship Troopers, where the students like, well, violence doesn't really solve anything, and the teacher's like, I kind of disagree with you. I think that if you ask any, the grandfathers in Nagasaki, uh, violence solved that.
No, it didn't.
If violence doesn't solve anything, why do you go to war in the first place?
War
know,
was
That's
pointless.
that's a psyop that's been going on forever. It's like
Right.
the whole
But this
peaceful,
guy, and then
protest.
I had
The
argument,
only
not really
wars that
arguments,
matter
but
to
I've
good are wars of
had
defense, where you're
conversations with
defending your
friends of
home.
mine because they're like, hey, if you think this guy's a hero, you like this guy, then screw off. It's very. I said, you know what? I don't think there's black and white anymore. I said, this guy's murder's wrong. This guy did this, but was this guy and the policies that his company was putting forth also killing people? So
But you can't equate the two, right? Because technically, what he's part of is a company that makes decisions on healthcare. You call denying claims murder, then what do you call approving claims? Because that's the majority of what they do.
okay, but being part of the insurance industry,
So did he get to
heavily,
balance the number of lives he
Yes.
saves?
heavily regulated,
Death
Um,
panels.
heavily
Well, then
regulated.
let's have death panels
They
for the
they will
regulators first.
they care more about making money in the bottom line than helping people.
Yeah, that's
I
passive
can give
The
you,
whole
Like
thing
I
is
said before,
basically
the
government
accountants,
controlled.
I can give you a
Wall
thousand.
Street
His beef
Two
was
counters
with
are evil.
Obamacare,
You're
not
100% right
a
on that.
private company.
But what I made the point. I went through, showed all these articles that, like, a lot of the American public is like, yeah, man, fuck these guys, fuck these corporations, fuck them for killing people and not caring about people, and actually, I mean, look at the Rainmaker and so many real cases where they've been exposed for lying, denying
But it's just so
claims.
one step.
But here's something. But then here's the thing: within 48 hours after this happened, Blue Cross Blue Shield changed a policy that was supposed to go into effect next year about giving
Right,
anesthesia.
terrorism is effective, yes.
Yep.
So it did it had
Wow.
It did.
That's the thing,
Yeah.
though. I don't think it was even
Look what it
terrorism.
did to
I
us
think it's
after
just
9/11. We completely made airport travel just so
it woke 'em up
inconvenient
to
that
be on
everybody
it.
basically gets butt raped every time they go through by
Yeah.
a
Also,
government
now
veto.
all CEOs, all their information is being pulled from LinkedIn. It's like they're instituting blocks so regular folks can't find stuff out.
Well, and some of the issues they were using AI to find ways to deny claims.
Yep.
AI that they knew was 90% inaccurate, and they were denying
Mhm.
the more than any other insurance group. They were like over 30% of the claims, right? Which
Over 30% of
you know,
which claims? That seems
I don't
high.
give a
Total
shit.
claims.
I don't give
Total
a
claims,
shit.
Greg.
You think that's high? I don't give a shit.
This seems like an overestimate to me because they mostly process claims for
It's a Wall Street
co-pays on drugs.
publication. It's a Wall Street publication, and so that, hey, wow, I'm gonna invest in UAH because they got a higher
Exactly.
claim.
I don't know. I feel like congratulations for shooting the messenger is how you should say to
Well,
that guy.
my point, I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that, well, let's back up. How about this? If it were any one of us that were on that street and someone came up and shot us in the back, would there be a massive manhunt for this one individual? No.
Probably, yeah.
If the massive manhunt for the
A
individual,
cold-blooded killing in the middle of the
what?
street will tend to draw the ire of the police. Yes,
Yeah. So
I don't know. How often does it happen in Chicago or New
especially
York?
if it's done with a silencer and looks like a fucking contract hit.
Yeah, and for the record, I'm going to go down and say I was wrong. I thought it was a contract hit because of the silencer, but it turns
You
out
can't
it was
dismiss that yet.
You know,
We don't even know yet.
It's the opposite.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the opposite. That's what Hollywood has taught you. First off, if you use a silencer or any NFA item,
It doesn't
there's
show the
so
witnesses.
much
Yeah, I know.
trackability on it.
Yeah.
At all times.
quick.
If he
Okay,
built it
yep.
himself and made it, which it looks like it was something.
Okay, so he screamed at the press that it was planted on him, right? The lawyers claimed innocence without even seeing everything yet. And the weirdest thing I saw, and I don't have it in front of me, but I saw a report from NBC that, and I kid you not, if you were a boomer, and I don't want to just pick on boomers, if you
okay,
were
I'm a boomer.
if you were someone who just watched mainstream media, right? You would think, it's like, oh gosh, it basically goes through this story, and I kid you not. I'm not joking. This is the most ridiculous thing ever. That it was talking about how he and his friends used to play this Assassin's game, and it's like, okay, it's
Well,
him,
there we
it's
go.
him,
It's his
right?
Yeah.
And
Oh, great.
I kid you
Get out some
not.
laws
They were
censoring fucking
fucking
video games now. That'll solve the
They were
problem.
describing, I kid you not, Among Us.
KFK Reloaded.
They were describing Among Us in this NBC
Among
article
Us.
that he had played with friends. And this
My
is an
favorite part of it,
assassination
though,
game,
was,
and one of
was
them
Liz
was always
Warren
the
doing her
assassin.
best Santa Claus impersonation, going, I don't believe in killing, but, and there's a big but right there. Even though she's a scraggly old crow, but
I don't know. I'm so sick of
but
the
then she goes, you better watch out.
I don't know. I do know, through times in our history and
She's
through
encouraging
Western history,
vigilantism.
Bonnie and Clyde, Billy the Kid, the criminals who were robbing the banks were the good guys, and people was like, yeah, because they, the bankers are what they are. That's common again.
Gunning
That's
people
all it is.
down
We
the
just had a
street.
long
Coming
period
again.
where we pretend like everything
Not the
is
same thing.
is lawful,
Mhm.
and yet they're just they were just slaves. So
Love them SPF.
A human
SBF.
being murdered somebody, and they tried to do it to make a political point.
No.
I think we burn that person just the way we would burn somebody who maybe flies a building into an aircraft, or flies a plane into a building. Right?
Yeah.
This is the same thing.
What about
This
the
is-
one
this
that
is-
flew into the
This is
IRS?
9/11. This is 9/11, but with a guy with a gun on the street. He just wanted
And it
to
happened to
fucking
be
have
in
it his-
Manhattan.
Version of it.
you really
What a
He wanted to
coincidence.
have it his fucking way.
The
You
Michael
really
That's
think
why
that?
he's not
I don't know.
the
I
king.
think
It's very
sympathy for him.
coincidental that
None.
I'm
it
gonna-
was in Manhattan.
On the Truth Tuesday, Sean, that was a good show with you and Lisa talking about this this topic. And my point was when the other health insurance company said we're going to change this policy, I made the comment in the chat that was like temporary, because my point was, they changed the policy now, but as things settle back down, they're going to turn that back on because they got to please the shareholders.
Well, they're scared, and that was
They're
my
scared,
point. That was my point about the show is that Joe just said, as long as there's a rope behind it, we all say this, and we talk about everyone talks about the corporate elite that really run America, and these people, those people, the child rapists and the adrenochrome junkies, and then they're scared. This
I think
guy
the DIE people
has
are honestly
scared all
responsible.
And they
those
should be.
people, and now we're like, oh no, that's wrong. It's confusing.
How much
If
money
you
do you
really
think
step back and look at
I
it,
don't know.
United
I'm a
Healthcare is
fan
required
of
to
the
spend on
Saatchi
diversity,
guy.
equity, and inclusion? How many claims do you think that requires them to deny?
Wow. I think he's tapping into something that we're going to start seeing, right? But on the
I
other
hope
hand,
not,
if there's
honestly.
enough normies that are happy and content with watching, their entertainment for the day, and they're getting enough cake, that the shelves aren't bare, and that the life is basically simple and easy. They got the easy streak going on. As long as life is not hard, then they are placated. They're happy, so to speak. They're plugged into nothingness. Then if life isn't hard, there isn't going to be a national divorce. There isn't going to be a rise and a fight or revolution to change the wrongs that the government is doing to its people. And so if life is too easy and too simple, then, and we're not feeling that tyrannical pain, then we're just going to keep
that's good. That's
on
a
with
good
our
point. If
lives.
we're not feeling the pain, like Greg just said. You guys had this little argument because you said, do you think there would have been this big manhunt if it was just one of us? Greg,
there wouldn't
beautifully naively said, yes, there would be.
No, there would be.
Everyone is there. Everyone's
There's
on
a difference
NBC.
between beating
Now, hold
somebody
on,
on the
hold
subway,
on,
beating somebody to
finish,
death in
Greg.
the corner of a
Let me
subway and shooting them
Let
on
me
the street
finish.
corner.
Greg, let him finish his point.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful, and that's the great way of thinking. But the reality, I think, is what I Am was talking about. No, we can hear, 500 people were killed in Chicago in the last week. Oh, that's bad. But if you see it, we were talking about all these kids died in Yemen. All these kids died here 2 years ago. Nothing. But now there's pictures of kids dying in Gaza, and all of a sudden it's important because it's seen.
Right, pictures.
Because it's in your
Damn
face.
right. That's exactly right.
That's the whole difference. And that's once again, there's no media.
Yeah.
There's no media to there's no
Most
real
people
media.
kill in dark corners. It's rare that it happens out in public for no good reason other than to make a point.
Usually, if somebody kills somebody, it's based. Well, I say it's a function of how their brain and their childhood developed.
But I think we're getting to the point now where regular people, when they're like, "Oh my God, look at this murder! This guy shot the guy in broad daylight," and then people are like, "Yeah, but it happened in the same time, happened over here in Chicago, happened here, Minneapolis, it happened twice in Dallas, the same day. Why is there the story? There's not a story equal story for all of those people. It's this. This is what's important, and I think people are now lowering the elites to just regular people.
And also, here's another point.
Yeah.
Like, if you really want to stop lone wolf violence, you have to improve standards of living, right? You have to improve quality of life. We can't have a country that is in decline if you don't want to see more of this shit, right? People can't feel fucking hopeless and surveilled and monitored. Like, I saw this story the other day that they've wrongfully imprisoned a lot of kids over monitoring for suicide. They have these bureaucratic systems set up at schools that are designed to like check on their social media, and some girl wrote like a poem that the guidance counselor thought was too dark, and the cops showed up and took her to jail. Right? Like, we got to stop these suicides. Crank up the monitoring. Crank up the accountability. Well, guess what? Right? Like, these kids are already under fucking mass surveillance when it comes to their grades. Their parents know what they did, how they did on the quiz before they do. And if you want to look at why youth suicide is up, it's not because of social media. It's because of fucking monitoring.
Yeah.
Nobody can
Pressure.
breathe anymore.
Yeah, all that pressure. Yeah.
Well, you know they know statistically. It's talking about youth suicide. They know that when suicide is spoken about, that it raises the rate of suicide. And so they that's why that Netflix show on suicide came out, because they wanted
like
to
to point
suicide
at
rate.
like this is when Netflix came out,
Prevention.
or this is when Instagram came out and suicide spiked. Well, that was also the year that parent portals reached mass adoption. Maybe they should look at that.
And to your point though, Joe, actually, I kind of disagree on them trying to. I think it has another portion of wanting to monitor, because if you go into PKD's novel, specifically Minority Report, which great movie as well, besides Tom Cruise, but that in itself is based on preventive policing, and I would push back and say they want it out there. More people delve into the topic of suicide. They want to harm themselves, and then we can all put them in under lock and key, so we can monitor them even more
That
strictly.
might be, get them on the
For
drugs.
all we
Yeah.
know,
Big Pharma wants
accidental
them on
deaths
that.
might get more
put them on
frequently
drugs.
attributed.
I mean, but I'm telling you that
It could be a frequency
know.
bias of the police.
But,
They could see, like, coroners could see a show about suicide, and they call more accidental deaths suicides because they saw that. We don't know.
That too. Yeah.
You know, like, we have all these notions about connecting dots, and we don't really handle correlation and causation very well as a species.
Well, when you apply an experiment across the board to everybody all at once, you can never know.
right.
You know, you don't
Well,
have
that's an
control.
instant fail right there.
Yeah.
There's nobody.
Yeah.
There's no such thing
What
as
other-
aggregate actors.
What other things? Because I know that the UHC CEO thing, there's just so much weird about that. A lot of stuff doesn't quite make sense. Do we talk about any of that? I don't really care about any of it. But he had the gun in his backpack. The guy at the McDonald's that turned him in apparently was a volunteer at McDonald's. Did you see this?
A volunteer at
volunteer.
McDonald's.
It's like, okay, so wait, there's a volunteer.
I mean, so was Donald Trump.
Yeah, maybe.
There we
Right,
go.
and he
Correlation.
He called the
I think
cops
we
on
have
him.
a
Like,
cause.
wait a minute. Wait, it's a volunteer at McDonald's. Can you
A
go volunteer to work at
volunteer.
McDonald's?
There's always these questions that makes it look weird.
Whatever we do, we should assume one thing
Intern?
is true and then insist upon it. without exploring.
What
other
I don't
possibilities.
understand is why didn't he get rid of the gun? Like
Right.
most people would get rid of the
Because
gun.
because because it was set up, right? So
Because he
Yeah.
spent so much time working on it. He loved his guns.
Just
I'll
so
read it.
happens.
I'll read the
the
synopsis.
CEO is
from
supposed
4chan.
to.
This is from 4chan. Let's see here. Do I have it here? You can't read it very well, but okay. So
It's manifesto.
official story is that that he shot the CEO, went to the park, dropped a backpack full of Monopoly money for no reason, transferred all the incriminating evidence to a similar but different backpack, except for a different gun for some reason, wandered around New York City at night for a laugh, changed into slightly different yet similar jacket, grew a unibrow, lost a couple of inches in height, changed his skin color, randomly flirted with someone long enough to reveal their new yet slightly different facial features, drove to
happened 4 hours
Pennsylvania for no
before, not
reason,
after.
then walked around for no reason for a week with a signed confession, the murder weapon, 12 grand in cash, and a bunch of fake IDs until a random McDonald's volunteer, not a worker, but a volunteer, who's 85 years old with cataracts, but also has Batman vision, somehow ID'd him across the room. Finally, after being arrested, the first words Luigi makes to the public as he screams at reporters while being manhandled by police and forced into a holding cell are, "This is clearly an abduction and an insult to the intelligence of the American people." And then the bottom, "Mamma mia, that's a one magic Luigi."
Here we go.
I'm like, damn, I read that this morning. I'm like, what?
Wow.
I don't know.
There's some factual like quibbles that I have with that. Like for instance, the face thing happened 4 hours before. We know that from
but don't
an
be that guy.
community note. But mostly aligned
It's
with
funny.
reality. Yeah,
It is funny.
it's odd.
I mean,
Yeah,
he could have shaved the unibrow.
He
Oh
could.
wait,
Also,
No,
why
yeah,
were they
but-
trawling the
and-
river?
you know how fast. You know
Remember
how
they were
fast
trawling
this
the river
grow
for a
if you
while?
just shave it. So he could have shaved it when he committed the hit, and then I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he took some tonic.
They trawled the nearby river. Do you guys remember this?
Right.
That
Maybe he
cops
was
out
waiting.
like dredging the river.
I don't know if you guys
Yeah, but-
remember when JFK Jr. Speaking of the, would
I
they
guess
do
nary a
this
gun
for
was
me?
found.
Would they do this for me? Fuck no. It annoyed me, and I'm even a JFK Jr. fan, right? I was like, oh, he's a good guy, right? When he went down, do you remember what they did? It was the military went out. They brought ships in to find him. Like, what? Would they do that
Yeah.
for me? Like, wait a minute.
Dude.
Nope.
He's not in the military anymore. He's not an elected representative of anything. Why would they do that?
I don't know. The whole thing feels kind of like a
JFK.
distraction from something else they're doing.
Yes. Ew.
There's something. That's what I'm saying. It's just like, and
Mhm.
it's crazy.
Shield and distraction, cloak and dagger, and then
Maybe-
the fact that JFK.
Smells like an op,
JFK.
man.
Maybe
Yeah,
Luigi
it's
was
all
waiting
right.
on his payment from Nancy Pelosi.
Something.
I don't
right?
know.
I don't know.
Maybe Luigi just. I
Oh,
don't know,
and
he
here-
got
okay.
lost. He got lost in the
Listen.
haunted mansion.
Here's something. So, given all this stuff, like the drones in New Jersey, and maybe where else? Pennsylvania or New York, right? The drones, right?
The
People are
drones.
posting this stuff. It's like, oh my god, what are these drones? And they have all these stupid theories and whatever. I'm going to say stupid. They have all these theories about what they are. But my question is, because all of the official,
Test.
I guess, statements about it are that they think they're from Iran, right?
Bullshit.
And so I'm like, what false flag are they going to do that might involve drones and Iran and something that would cause us is like, oh, we've
Exactly
got
the
to
sort
go
of
get
crap they
these
say.
guys.
Oh,
secret
I think-
aircraft.
I
What is-
think I know what they're trying to do. They're going to have Trump take a shot that's official. Then that puts JD Vance as your new president, and then we're going to war with Iran for Israel.
That's what I thought at first, but I think that they're trying to make out that Trump is the Antichrist. So I think it's going to be Trump.
Uh,
doing it, but
Yeah, that
I
actually.
think that
He
they're
had
just
the
exploiting
earshot.
random crises in a flailing around death swell. Like
I don't know.
these people are about to lose power. They're flailing
Yeah.
for anything. They're looking at crises. They're seeing what they're going to gin up. They're
Yeah.
showing us.
I just
stuff,
hope
and
it's
they're
more
showing us stuff
entertaining.
very
It's been
specifically.
so boring and stupid. All the stuff they've been doing lately, it's not entertaining at all. It's been dumb.
Yeah.
everything they're doing is dumb. It's like this is you know, if I paid for this movie, I'd already walked out.
I'd be pissed too.
Right?
Wasted money.
Yeah,
Wasted the whole $35 for everything.
Yeah.
From the ticket to the popcorn to the pop.
Oh, you had to leave my damn
Dude,
popcorn. This is just so disgusting. I wouldn't have any appetite left.
Yeah.
They ran out of ideas after they got rid of the murder hornets.
I
Oh,
think
yeah,
I
murder
would be.
hornets.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Murder
You
hornet.
guys remember? You guys remember that scene from V for Vendetta when he's like, "Ramp up the bad news, make them remember why they need us." Right?
No, I don't. I never saw.
I
the
remember
movie.
that. I think Luigi should have been, rather than arrested in McDonald's, he should have been arrested in a movie theater for not paying for a ticket.
Oh yeah, there you go. There you go. Right? Yeah, that would be good.
Like
That
Jake,
would be
you know,
great.
like Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah.
Plot twist too.
But
Go to
just-
Have
Wyoming.
to be arrested for not paying for something when you have like $8,000 on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's an interesting angle. Do you think they used AI to write the fake confession, fake manifesto?
Probably.
I'll bet.
They use
Same
Grok.
people.
It would be
Same-
really hard to
same employee.
detect if you fed it a corpus of previous writings.
There you go. There you go. Elon's going to release another Twitter file that says they used Grok.
They
Oh,
use-
Grok.
They would have
What-
used.
what-
they
No,
would have
they're going
used
to blame
the-
Grok.
They would have
but
used
they would've-
OpenAI for that.
No, they would have used Google's thing.
They
Oh,
probably
yeah,
would use
what's Google's called?
Gemini.
Gemini.
Yeah.
Well, no.
No,
what
except for it
didn't-
would have turned. It would.
would-
I guess his skin tone changed, like the 4chan post
It
said.
did.
Right?
Oh, and there's the other thing. When are we
Yeah,
going to
exactly.
get this? What was it called? The the Butlerian jihad. When are we going to get that for real? You know,
What?
because that's the AI stuff is going. The backlash against AI is going to be
Dude,
so
I'm an AI
hard.
white pill. I love it. I don't want it to go away.
We're not even going to have flying cars, but we're going to have our fucking Butlerian jihad. That's for sure.
Well, if we have
Yes.
Butlerian jihad before we give the AI much time, then we'll never get flying cars. But our only hope of designing that thing is not to let people do it.
Yep, man. Well,
I heard
Too much like a
interesting- I heard
Cessna,
very
not enough
interesting
like a DeLorean
argument
with jets underneath it.
or opinion on AI. He was a priest, but he was talking about if AI develops consciousness and becomes we've created a real being, then could that being be possessed by a demon to do the will of evil
That's
across
silly.
the
look
web?
at the founders. Look, Sam Altman. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe.
Odds are it's probably already got more persistent awareness than human consciousness.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I
I don't know.
that was weird, bringing religion into AI.
What makes you think they haven't done it yet?
I would think that a
Chris
priest
would
would
have
That
wrote
would
about
be
it
a
back in
CIA.
2000.
I
I
think
think,
a
hey,
priest-
let's see if we could do this. Let's see if it's possible.
I think a
Oh,
priest would
yeah.
want to know more about, are we some type of a
Right.
sub god now to it, and it has to learn about our gods, and therefore maybe our gods have other gods.
Yeah, there's
Sort
a
of like
subset
a-
of,
Thou shalt have no other
there's a subset
AI
of,
before I.
mid-century
An
Jesuits,
interesting
including,
Anunnaki twist.
No, guys, there's like a Jesuit priest by the name of Teilhard de Chardin who actually wrote a lot about humanity building a universal consciousness. His writings were considered heretical because he posited that humans were created to create God in the future.
That's wild.
Well, yeah, I don't trust the Jesuits though. I don't know much about
Also,
them.
the new Goon show is
You
really
suck.
But I did see.
No,
I
I'm
did
kidding.
see. Have you guys ever seen? Speaking of that, have you ever seen? This came up to me just this past week, and I was like, "What?" And I read through it. It's their oath that they have to take. And it's very interesting, and I wonder. And the reason,
Who
I'm
is
looking
they?
into some of this, the Jesuits.
Who is
Oh,
I'm looking, and I don't understand much about that at all. Right? I grew up Catholic, but I really don't. I don't understand about the Jesuits.
Dude, how many of
but-
us here grew up
but-
Catholic?
But one way or another, go look up the Jesuit oath. It is crazy, and some of it's pretty
It is,
interesting. They
actually.
take a vow to do these things, no matter what. They basically disavow any authority other than the head of the Jesuits and the Pope.
Mhm.
Right? It's like, okay, so their local country laws don't matter in this oath,
Kind of weird that they
and
didn't
they
put God in
sign the oath with their blood. and they basically declare if they don't follow his oath, they're going to hell, right? And it's just this. It's like, holy crap, If we had something like that for our politicians, they probably wouldn't rape those little kids and then end up
like a
screwing
weak
us,
admission that
right?
God that they don't believe in God, though, isn't it? To not include God in the
I
authority.
believe
chain?
that is it. I just dropped the link in the private chat.
Did you find it?
It makes me think maybe I should create as emperor an oath for Din, a blood oath.
That's some of why I even looked into it, because I think crypto projects are kind of like a microcosm of what we see out in the world, and you can see how crypto projects, multiple of them, have been taken over and diverted from their original honorable,
If you do that, though, then you pretty much sealed the deal if they decide to come after us all with a RICO case.
Foundational myth.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. It's just interesting, and and I think there is something needed. It doesn't necessarily have to be an oath, but it does need to be that. Hey, the big question I have is whether you can make an organization that has an honest, honorable oath without it succumbing to someone who is dishonest, right? How do you counter the dishonest when you're trying to do this, and you have transparency? So the dishonest are going to come in and they're going to pretend. How do you counter that? That's the big question. There are a couple of things.
You have to swear to something with power, like the One Ring, right? Like it held Smeagol to his word.
Replace power with money, and then think about intergenerational wealth.
But the ring was blood magic, though, which that's what
kind of
most of the world's run on. So.
Oh wow, we're at time, Joe.
We got to wrap this to power. Holy shit!
All right. Who wants to go first? Sean, quickly.
Check me out. And I've got interviews, shows Tuesday, True Tuesday. Me and Lisa do the show. First half on her channel, second half's on mine. Doing more reviews, checking stuff out. That's about it. I'm going to actually drop off. I will see you guys later.
All right.
See you, Sean.
All right, Greg.
All right. So yesterday I was on a really cool Spaces that was Make Crypto Cypherpunk again. It was a blast. And I think it's this coming Monday we're doing another one. And we're talking about all the shit that nobody's talking about but should be. We got a decent drop in for Dragon Chain and the situation with the SEC yesterday. Cool. I'm going to bring it up again.
Cool.
If you guys want to come and support and drive that conversation further. Not a lot of people know about it, bizarrely enough. You'd think they would, but they don't. So come out and show your support, and I'll share that link on Design Heretic on X.
Sweet.
What time is it? What time is the space?
Let me just find out real quick.
Throw it in the chat when you find it.
Yeah. When you find it, just throw it in the chat.
Absolutely.
Andrew, this week.
This coming week, Zach and I continuing our additional podcast episodes where we're covering the news, and I don't know. Sorry. Anyways, just come check us out. The half hour Monday through Wednesday, and then we're here Thursday, and then on Friday we always have our evening program. So
excellent. Zach, I'll just go quick since anything to add to that.
Yeah, just check us out, Legacy Right over on YouTube and Rumble and everywhere else that you can find the podcast. Our Legacy News is only YouTube special. It runs Monday through Wednesday, starting this week. We're just going to go over news. I think Monday we want to try to keep it more political. Tuesday we're going to keep it more social, society and culture, and then Wednesday is our crypto day leading up for the World Blockchain Roundtable, which we are obviously on. So and then don't miss every Friday on YouTube and X live at 9 p.m. Eastern is the Legacy Right. So which there's probably gonna be a surprise tomorrow. So
cool.
a Den.social special.
Right on.
So
right
don't miss
William.
Awesome.
William, what's up?
Well, shout out to Litecoin Lisa. Lisa, we missed you today. I was on her show Monday night. We talked about the JFK shooting, and guess what? there is evidence of the second shooter, an image captured, believe it or not.
Ooh.
Brand new information. Very,
That was-
very few people know about it. So check out her show this past Monday. I was on it and we discussed it. If you want to talk to a real live living emperor, then go to din.social, click on the Din Dao, and ask any question you like of the emperor, and I, as the emperor of Din Dao and the Din Social, will answer. I will be on a diplomatic mission as the emperor, and probably be going to Hawaii for Christmas. So I'm wearing my red and green today. I'm not sure if I'll be on the show tomorrow. I will be on a diplomatic mission, of course, for Din Social.
Which island?
As your emperor.
All right.
Which island are you going to?
I cannot say.
Yeah, it's operational security. You have to be careful of that. For me, follow Dracaria World. That's coming out. Pay attention to what's going on with Din. I'm hoping that the Emperor announces a new weekly show, which would be the show / DAO meeting type thing, and then also on merch. We need some merch for Imperial merch, there is some stuff brewing with. We've talked about it already, but Din, there's some really amazing stuff that hopefully will happen this coming year. That's the good stuff. So, anyway, pay attention to that. Follow us on X. Sorry if we offended anyone today, but
Dracaria!
Watching.
Free speech is only free
Dracaria.
if you
Talk soon.
can
Bye.
offend.
America's not the government, people. The America is you. It is the Grand fucking Canyon, the Rocky Mountains, the deserts of the Southwest, the Pacific fucking Ocean, the Atlantic fucking Ocean. It is the grandest continent. And what the fuck have you people done? You have turned yourself into sheep every goddamn